Some might call him a mad scientist. Some, man, they just see this amazing YouTuber that catches a ton of fish. But there's a whole different side to our guest today. We are talking to Mr. Tony Faggioni of Fishgum. So you definitely want to have your notepad ready for this because you know there is going to be a ton of knowledge dropped all throughout the entire episode. So sit back, relax. You're listening to Finding Demo Surf Fishing. Let's get after it. New week, new times. Hope you are doing well wherever you are, whether you're at the beach, driving, going to the gym, wherever you're listening to this podcast and whatever platform you're listening to it on. I truly do hope you're doing well and things are going really smooth out there for you. So, like I said, this week we are talking to Mr. Tony Faggioni of Fishgum. We've been planning this interview for a long time, actually, and both of us have been ridiculously busy, and we finally found a way to carve this out for ourselves, so it's really going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, Tony, welcome to the show, man.
Man, what is up? I will hijack your podcast like right now. So I told you I was going to do it.
You did.
Let me start by just saying thank you, Brian, for you putting yourself out there and really doing something that no one else has done, is focusing on this surf fishing space and serving not only anglers, small businessmen, big businesses, but just taking the time to invest in all of our lives. And I can tell you that God is using you, and I just want to affirm you in your gifts that listening to your intro, listening to all of your shows, we're in the 30s now, and just seeing how evident that you are exactly where you need to be. And I'm so blessed to be a part of the show and humbled to be here and be included in your this next episode. Maybe it's 36. I can't remember the number, but it is it's an amazing number to see that happen. So I'm very thankful for you, and keep doing this, and I can only imagine what the next years are going to be like. So we are blessed in this community because you are doing this, and don't ever forget that.
You're beyond awesome, because this isn't even in here, and you know what? I'm just going to open with it too. First of all, thank you. I will firstly tell you that actually a lot of this has to do with you, that I started a podcast. And I will tell everybody a couple of different stories here because you're on the phone and you're stuck with me. So
I'm here, baby. I'm not going anywhere.
So for those of you that listened to my very first episode, I kind of explained what I was doing with the podcast and my plan with it. Well, that plan had actually started a while ago when it first started with my blog on Our Never Ending Summers. I went to Tony and I was like, hey, man, this is what I want to do. I want to write reviews, write about surf fishing, because it wasn't overly written about. And there were a few writers here and there, but again, it was like, oh, whatever. And you were like, do it. Have at it. You know, you introduced me to several people that I was able to write stuff on, Ninja Tackle, Salty. You got me in touch with all these guys, and that helped me get that one started. And then it all kind of morphed into a weird path of, holy crap, I know how to fish. And then, meeting people, learning and all that, and you taught me a ton. And if you guys go back to probably a year and a half ago in Tony's videos, probably the second time I ever fished with Tony, we got stuck in a lightning storm, bugged out in the morning. He went back out. He set up. I came back out. I was like, I got to go back out. There's got to be something. And Tony was there when I caught my very first pompano. Super celebrated it, definitely made me feel like $1 million. And it was in reality, and I know you said, no, it's all you. Well, it was very much so because of you and your education that you had on Fishgum on the YouTube channel that made me realize it. Two further ones, because I'm going to run my mouth on this. If it wasn't for you and Bama Beach Bum,
Mm.
I would have never known in reality what surf fishing was. Uh, I was in a YouTube hole in Tennessee during the
Yes.
and
Hmm.
I just happened to go down a YouTube tunnel and I'm like, what's this fish gum? What surf fishing? What is this? And I was hooked. I went through all your episodes and I started going
Yes.
through Bama's and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn this. Get moved down here. Hurricane Sally comes through. Welcome back to Florida, Brian. It was kind of like, all right, this is
Yeah.
great. A couple weeks later, I bump into you at Walmart of all
I
places.
remember that. I did feel your eyes staring at me.
I mean,
And at that time I probably had like 4,000 subscribers. And I promise you, YouTubers are out there, but we're not famous. We're real people too. But I'm glad that that was the first connection we made at a Walmart of
it
all
was
places.
it was hilarious because I'm like, it kind of looks
Yes.
like him. Nah, I'm not gonna bug. No, I'm gonna bug him. Like, are you by chance?
Oh man.
And it was cool because that's how it all started. And
It was
here we
cool.
are now, over a year and a half later. We've fished together numerous times. We've been through a
That's
bunch of stuff,
amazing.
broken bread. So we've definitely
Yes.
built the friendship and shared knowledge and ideas and all that fun stuff. So, thank you for
Yes.
everything you have done personally for me, but also for our community. You have been a huge help to, I dare I say, millions of people.
Oh,
And again, seriously, thank you.
man, you're welcome. And I'm so blessed, and just really see the hand of God in all this. And I'd be remiss not to just recognize that He has determined the places where we should live, and He makes those connections for us. And man, I'm so thankful to be a part of your life and have you a part of mine. And that extends with many other people that are listening to this podcast today, that not only feel like friends, but feel like brothers. And I am very, very thankful for that, and actually need that in my life. Very, very few often do we have, friends that would do anything for you. And I really believe that for the people that we are, for the persons that we are, man, we really are brothers to one another. So I'm really blessed by that.
Yeah, man, absolutely, we are.
Amen. Amen.
So let's get into the fun questions here because everybody's like,
Sure.
oh, you guys are just going to jaw jack and be friendly? I'm like, yes, this is what we do. If you guys actually listen to our conversations, this happens a lot.
We
Um,
make fun of each other. We
we do.
laugh at each other. We laugh at other fishermen, and we just have a good
We truly do.
time.
All right. So, what brought you, what got you into surf fishing and where did you start?
So I grew up in this area. I lived all over the place, from Topeka, Kansas. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, Denver, Colorado, Manchester, New Hampshire, and then we found ourselves moving back to the Panhandle for my middle school and high school years. And the person that got me involved in this style of fishing, and you've seen him before on a previous ambassador video I put on Facebook, was my uncle, Bill Sims. He's called Captain Bill. I call him Uncle Butch. And he spent a lot of time down in the Keys as a captain on Marathon Island, fly fishing for tarpon, taking Roland Martin out there. I mean, he's got a long history of fishing with some of these people we grew up watching. But one thing he loved more than anything else was surf fishing. He bought me my first Penn Slammer with a Penn 8500 reel on it, probably way too big of a reel for that rod. I think it was like a 6 foot rod. I mean, well, that was more like 7 foot rod. I still have it in my garage. It's kind of falling apart. I don't really take care of my gear like I should. I'm learning still how to do that.
Are
But I
doing
really
it.
credit, I
We
know,
try.
I,
We
I
really
know,
try.
we try hard. I really credit my uncle in creating this love of surf fishing. He was the first person I was with when I caught a pompano. He was using sand fleas at the time. And this is back in the day where there were no floats, there were no beads. I mean, literally, we would have strictly 20-pound mono on our fishing reels, and we would literally put a weight at the bottom, tie the droppers as we move closer to the spool on the same line, and we'd cast it out there without even circle hooks, and we'd still catch fish, But this is the style that we learn, and I tell you what, man, we have come a long way now, just to see how much the gear, the tackle has changed, which has made us so much better. But at the end of the day, it really was my uncle. It was a relationship with him, and really anything in my life has been taught to me by somebody else. So I'm so thankful for him spending time to fish with his nephew on the beach. So that's what taught me.
I don't think there's anything better than family time at the beach, and especially fishing. It's There's
Man, there's
something
not.
about that bonding time.
There really is, and I tell you, some of my best memories. My father, my stepfather, my mother, they're all passed away. But when I think about memories with family fishing, I have one memory with my dad. We were in Panama City at Bay Point Pier at the Marriott there, and the mullet were like pets. There were 1,000. I mean, they were everywhere. And all I had was a little bait cast net. He had a 6 foot cast net, and we literally caught our limit of mullet out there. It was ended up going home with 100 fish. I let him clean them
Wow.
all because that's a lot of fish to
Yeah.
clean. But that's a memory that I'm so thankful for. He's long gone, and to be able to share that, man, those memories with family and friends go a long way. They really do.
Absolutely, for sure.
Hmm.
So, well, you nailed my other two questions with that, so nice job.
We kind of get ahead of the game sometimes on this podcast.
It does happen. We'll jump a little bit. Yeah, I'll get into corral mode if I have to.
You're good, brother.
Um, and you do bring up a really good point and a question that's not on here. With gear and the advances in technology, I mean, you started out as a kid, and here we are. We're in our
Yes.
40s. You know,
Yes.
we've definitely seen. Well, you've seen it more than I have in that side of the game. The saltwater fishing in itself, it had its births, and then surf fishing has grown so much. But back then, it was still kind of, I don't know what everybody tells me is, the freshwater game was such the craze. That's where all the gear was.
Sure.
And then
Sure.
trying to get your hands on saltwater gear was, well, you need it for a boat.
That's right.
And I was like, oh, how do you do that? So you have seen, so many changes. I mean, right now, which one? I hate to ask this, but I mean, because this is a hard question even for me to answer. What's your favorite reel right now?
That's a great question. I fish Daiwa Crosscast X, not because
Yeah,
they're maybe the best out there, but because they're the most affordable for me. I think that if you are willing to spend the money, I would say go for something. If you are a seasoned surf fisherman, you live on the coast, you're not a vacationer, but you're able to take something that not necessarily is something you're not going to use in 3 years, but something you're going to use for a lifetime. So I think Penn products are also great that fit that mold. And then you can take a step further. Anything that's sealed, you're going to use as a lifetime. Now, the 8500s that I have, I still own. And when I look at I don't use them right now because they're really heavy, right?
yeah,
They were completely iron. They're solid. I mean, you could. It would be a good weapon to have if you're in a hand-to-hand combat because they're so heavy. But it's such a great thing that I can hang on to forever because it was given to my uncle, and now it's more like a shelf piece that I can remember fishing with him. But there are other real options out there. Like I said, your Van Saws or anything that's sealed. Even Tsunami has those. That if you are somebody who lives here, you might want to invest in something that won't corrode as quickly as my Daiwas may. So I just use them because they're inexpensive for me and they're cheap, and I like the long cast, and they're the cheapest version in the long cast reels. So that's what I use. But I would say for the seasoned angler who lives here long term, you want to invest in something you're going to have for a long time.
oh, thank you for that. That was you took
Yes.
this in another direction, but I'm glad you took it in that direction. So thank you, because I
Yes,
also
sir.
have the crosscast. Thanks to you, you
Yes,
found a way
sir.
for us to get them, and I love it. Um, with the technology like that showpiece reel that you have, I've seen you fish with it, and it's been on your
Sure.
YouTube channel a couple times. It's the difference in the technology from then to now. With the speed, the amount of retrieve, the smoothness of
Yes,
the drag versus, felt and graphite and carbon fiber.
exactly.
It's night and day.
It is night and day, and it's a step in the right direction. And I would say because we're towing carts with 2 or 4 wheels, any way you can save on weight, that's the name of the game this year. Because there is some fatigue that can set in when we're walking the marine park, going down a half a mile to a mile to find a fishing spot. The lighter you have in your gear in your cart, the better it is long term. And I think these lighter options are incredible. And so that's why I put down the Penn 9500s, SSs, and I also have some greenies too that I fish. And I love fishing the antique versions, but I've lost some fish using those because they're older, right? And so the newer stuff is great. But I would always say, I would always lean on the best reel is the one that you can afford. At the end of the day, you don't need all the expensive stuff. It's great to have, but use the stuff that you can afford first, and ask for some nice Christmas presents, right? I mean, we got Father's Day, birthdays, Christmas. To get a nice reel that will last a lifetime is also something to think about too.
True story.
Yes, sir.
So, what moving into one of the bigger pieces, what prompted you to start a YouTube channel?
That's a great question. And there were so many things going on in my mind when I started that channel. The very first thing that I thought about was fishing with my sons. And I think Beach Buzz and a lot of people who bring their sons into their channel, I know Mad Dog Surf Fishing does it too. Man, what a great outlet to not only experience fishing with your sons, but also to record that and then you show the world that what you're doing, and also working in the gear you're using, the fishes that you're catching, the baits you're using, and the techniques that you're using to help everybody in surf fishing. And that's kind of what my first thought was. But, I'm not going to be the dad who's mad at their sons that don't like to fish. but it's not necessarily their thing. They love fishing with me, but I'm not the father who gets upset about not taking on the same characteristics as me. And so what it morphed into is more of, here's what I'm learning as I'm going. I do have a lot of knowledge from being a kid here, but that knowledge is outdated. So we're not only going to learn what's up to date, but this YouTube channel is, we're going to do some crazy things and to try new things, because even though we think we may know it all out there, we don't. Yep. So let's try new ideas. So it was more of a innovative surf fishing channel, and we did think about ways to work in a bait creation in the process. And I would say that Fish Gum is here today because of subscribers taking on free samples, giving me feedback, helping me to develop a bait. That wasn't the first start, was bait creation. It kind of morphed in that way as we began that journey. And so that's basically how I started the YouTube channel, where it began and where it ended up.
Okay. A lot of guys have mentioned the same thing. It started as a family one, and then it became let me show you what I've learned along the way. But you have made, you took it from that into more. I mean, I dare say, you're one of the top 5, top 3. I don't know the analytics, but I mean, when it comes to surf fishing, you're one of the top guys when it comes to a knowledge-based platform. So all of that has definitely morphed into something else.
Exactly.
When did it has it always been, well, I guess we're going to get into that later on. We'll talk about the bait and the fish gum.
No, whatever. Sure.
So I'll hold off on that before I get there.
Sure.
How has YouTube helped you as an angler?
So as a YouTuber, you've got to produce content. And so in my case, now I'm not throwing anybody in the bus who's a full-time YouTuber. I think that is an incredibly difficult job. I think to have to create content, to make it fresh, to make it new, to depend on, new ideas, to put yourself out there, to get paid by YouTube and Google, that is an incredibly difficult job. And I'm a little different because I have a full-time job, and I'm also doing YouTube, and then we have Fish Gum as well. And so how YouTube has made me into a better angler is that I have very small window to fish because of all the things that I'm invested in, family life, church, so many different activities. And so it causes me to really research more of where I can maximize the time that I spend fishing, even if it is just one day a week, and sometimes it's not, it's one day every other week. So it caused me to really get invested into a lot of other people's lives, different forums, starting a forum, connecting with charter well, not charter, but commercial surf fishermen, because I need all that knowledge in order to produce some kind of video, and they have knowledge that I don't have. And so without YouTube and the demands of trying to create content and really a really small opportunity that I have, it's made me a better communicator with other anglers, which can help me put me on some fish. And so that's how it's made me a better angler, being a part of YouTube with my limited time. And I would say that goes with anybody in life. If you're trying to just get out there and fish and do the same thing you're always doing, you're probably not going to be as successful as if you cultivate relationships and get to know people who can help you and direct you in those directions. So my YouTube channel is a product of a whole bunch of other people steering me in the right direction to catch fish. And without YouTube, I would not have that direction. So that's how it's made me into a better angler, depending less on myself and depending more on people who know what they're doing.
I mean, isn't that the way we're supposed to learn?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I mean, I've said it before, and I'll happily say it, whether it pisses people off or not. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Every idea that's
right.
out there now is built off of someone else's idea. I mean, and that's and that's in the world. I mean,
100%.
You want to go back to Rockefeller, or you can go all the way back as far as you want to go. We've all built off something.
iPhone.
Yeah.
Hello, iPhone, right?
Exactly. Everything we do built, and if you can make something better, great. You've done that. You've shown some really cool tricks with, a perfect example being ghost shrimp. Yes. People have heard about it, and then throw in their crawfish, and throw in other baits. These are things that people are like, huh, but it was successful. Yes. So now it turned into, okay, if it's successful, what's the next step? And somebody's going to build off of that, and then build off of that, and by the end of it, we're all going to be better for it, because what if we're not adapting? What are we doing? We're just dying.
That's exactly right. We've got to adapt. We've got to learn. We've got to learn from others. That's 100% correct.
Yes, sir. Well, so let's move into your fishing game, because you've already answered the other question about has it made you better. Yes, it has. All right. So would you say, when planning to fish, what is your standard routine?
So the number one routine is, and I'm sure most anglers do this, I basically prepare a week in advance, knowing that I'm going to fish. I'm going to fish this Saturday, and I'm going to be targeting cobia from the beach with salt squatch from Farnsworth.
You're gonna throw cobia from the beach in this one?
We're gonna try it. And so of course I've made a cobia rig, set rig. Right?
Of course.
It's completely novel. Have no idea if it's gonna work. I believe Bama Beach Bum's coming too, so we're gonna try to catch cobia, which we're seeing it happen, right? We've seen it happen this year, like 3 or 4 posts, right? And so I think they're out there more than we know they are. We can't see them, so why not try to target them? And we're going to see if it's possible. Because right now it's all incidental catches if you're catching it from a set rig. But can you truly target them? So I plan a week out in advance of the rigs I'm going to use, the bait I'm going to harvest, whether it's ghost shrimp. If I can purchase sand fleas from Gulf Breeze Bait and Tackle, Emerald Coast Bait and Tackle, or Half Hitch, I will. Of course, I've got an endless supply of fish gum, so I'm going to be bringing that. And so it's a lot of preparation, and a lot of it also is really paying attention to social media to see where people are catching things. And today we had some rumors of some sargassum grass, which can ruin fishing. It didn't ruin fishing, but it can. And so a lot of it is preparing your gear, the rigs you're going to bring, the baits you're going to bring, where you're going to go because of locations other people are fishing. But this week, we're planning to try to catch cobia from the beach, so we don't know what's going to happen. So a lot of it is figuring out when you get there. And that's what basically my routine is.
Okay. So you got the routine down. Now it's the next week. You get, how convenient is that pause?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
15 minutes. You better be checking it.
Close, close. Go get it. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is your first warning for your first bait check. We are at 24 minutes, 35 seconds, so we'll call it 25 minutes.
Nice.
So now is the perfect time for you to reel that line in, get it checked, and get that bait either topped off, cleaned up, or new and out there. Hopefully you've already caught a bunch and you're just listening to this on your walk back to the car. I mean, never a bad day. It does happen to catch your limit in the first 30 minutes. We have seen it.
That's right.
We've kind of done it. You've done it more than I have, but it's awesome when it happens.
It is awesome when it happens. It's nonstop and it's crazy, and then you're like, "It's over.
Yeah.
I want to catch some more.
Oh.
I got to go home. I got 6. It stinks."
Now, I digress. I'm going to digress. Last year there was the King.
Spring King
Pompano Tournament.
Yes, sir.
I was out there with Tony on Team Fishgum, with Cliff Gardner, Tom Cabrera, Mike Smitty. Almost like, what's Mike's name? Yes, Mike of Smitty Surf Fishing.
I'm actually wearing his shirt as we do this interview, Smitty Surf Fishing.
Nice.
And he gave this to me to give away as a giveaway, and I'm like, nope, I'm keeping it. My shirt. So,
that happens. I mean,
that's right.
I'm not gonna say I've the thought of it. I mean, well, it has happened actually. People don't claim their stuff, and I'm like, oh, I guess it goes into my bin. Thank you.
No, I'm keeping it. No, mine.
So we fished. I think it was day 2. We fished. We went to Marine Park and got out there first light, and we just got after it. Well, Smitty and I kind of separated from the group, and we went about probably another, I don't know, 200-300 yards to the east. And Smitty and I caught our limit in probably the first 30 to 45 minutes. But we didn't catch a 3 or 4 pounder, which we needed for the tournament because we were getting heavy fish and we were doing really well.
Yes, you were.
But here's Mike and I for the next 4 hours throwing back 13, 14, 15-inch pompano. And people are like, what the hell? I'm like, no, I need a 3-pounder, man. And we get a little crowd here and there, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, we don't want to talk about it, all right? This is sacrilege. We're just doing what we need to do. Leave us alone.
Yes, you were killing it. I mean, how many do you think you would have ended up with if you kept them?
Oh.
Like 40 or 50? I mean, it was insane.
It was at least 40 or 50 where we were. And from us down to the west, where you guys were on it. It was a bloodbath of pompano run that day. I mean, the whole beach was lined. It was rods from, I think Mike and I were actually the last one. We were close to being the last ones down there on the Eglin line.
You were.
All the way from there to the reef marker were rods. And Flipper came in and did some really great damage to fish, which was really a sight to see.
They got to eat.
It was, we had a couple commercial guys out there with us, just a little bit down to us to the west. Everyone was just slamming big fish, and it was limit after limit after limit, and they were good fish. So those days, oh yeah, man. Talk about a limit in 45, right there, all day.
That was a beautiful day, and I remember like, man, I wish we had a commercial guy here. We could hook him up today. You know, there's so much fish being caught.
He was about, 100 yards from you, I think, to the east, right?
He wasn't having the same thing. You guys were on it. There was something about that location. It looked like there's a cut out, and of course the beach changes. It's not that way anymore. But we end up as a team taking 3rd place, which was great. I mean, I love that format of working as a team. I think that we knew each other ahead of time, but we really got to know each other when you're really in the gauntlet, right? Fishing together for the same cause, walking away. Man, we had an absolute blast. That first day, we were driving all over the place to try to find some place to fish.
Yeah, we were so dirty.
And our biggest fish actually came from the Henderson Beach area. I think those were the biggest fish. We did well the rest of the time, caught fish, but I think for some reason or other, Destin holds some big fish.
Yeah, that was an interesting hole.
It was. It was a fun time.
It was. All right, so you got to the beach. You've already done your planning. You got it out of the truck. You're all set up. So now walking onto the beach, what are you looking for?
Depends on how lazy I am. So.
Oh, that's so fair. Oh, that is so fair.
That is like the number one thing is, God, please let me go to a spot that I don't have to walk far. Because I avoid Marine Park sometimes. I know it's great fishing there, but some days I'm just so tired I don't want to walk. I have been fortunate the last 2 times that I've been out. It was during the tournament for the Prito Blaine area. What was that tournament called? The
The Pompano,
Pompano.
yeah, well, oh my gosh, Pompano Showdown.
Come on, Pompano Showdown. And by the way, let's give Prito Blaine a big hands
Oh yeah,
clap for that. He did an incredible job. All the sponsors for that. What a great event! And it looks like it's going to be another event in the fall and in the spring again. So man, that was just such a cool event to be a part of. But anyways, for that event, I just was randomly driving down Navarre Beach. I was like, I'm just gonna park here. This is the side of the road, and I walk out there, and that tournament was completely rough. It was the worst fishing conditions for a tournament. The people that won, man, you guys are awesome anglers. But that spot I went to, I could see it clearly. It was a bar where the waves were breaking, and then there was a cut where no bar was for at least 200 yards. So it wasn't the ideal cut, but still, if you could get to the very beginning of that cut, then hopefully the pompano would be turning back in or out, coming in and out of that gut. And so I think we caught like 24 pompano in 2 days out of that area. Not big. I mean, we're catching 12, 13. There was one 14. But I think those cuts are the best to look for. And some days they're not there. And my second thing I'm looking for is just if I can cast over the bar. If I can just get a bait over the bar on the backside of it, that tends to be a productive place. But I'm still learning a lot about reading the beach. I'm not the best at it. Like Larry Finch is awesome. Justin Reed is really good at it, Justin Reed Fishing. You mentioned other folks as well. And I think if we can read the beach better, if I can read the beach better, I would do better at that. So I'm still really a novice at that, and I've gotten, in some good locations, but I can't find them all the time.
yeah.
And so that's the way I approach the beach.
It is it is a
Like Cliff's good at it too.
Oh,
Cliff's good at
Cliff.
finding. Cliff is great at it. I mean, that guy. If you don't follow Cliff Gardner on Facebook, he's a quiet guy, but just look at his catches. That's all I gotta say. Just look at his catches.
Cliff could catch a pompano in a freshwater pond.
That's true.
That man. So if
That's
you guys
true.
also didn't put it together, the green get 'em rigs, Cliff makes those. That's his rig,
Yes.
and that's what he fishes with routinely. He kept it a secret forever. We're like,
Yes.
what are you using? I'm not saying we spied on his rigs, but we completely and totally tried to see his rigs all the time before he got them back out.
Yep.
But yeah, he let that cat out of the bag. He's been making those rigs, and he's been super successful with it. Cliff is an
Yep.
amazing angler. He really
He
puts
really
it on.
is. And I remember when you first, like, he gave you some beads. He didn't give you the rigs that he had beads. I
Yeah.
remember seeing some text streams saying, Cliff, these green beads are magical. And they really are. There's something, no one knows why green. No one knows why green. Now, there are certain things that I caught on my underwater videos on YouTube that are pretty popular. It was some kind of shrimp-looking thing, and it was yellow and green and red. And that's the only green that I've seen. And so if we could figure out why this green color is working, it's something that they're eating. It's something we don't really have a lot of knowledge of. But these fish are attracted to green, and we need to capitalize on it. That's why these green beads work, and he's got some green floats too. So great rig. Love it.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So we get a little line set up, everything's there. So what is your typical gear setup? And what I mean by gear is rods, rigs, stuff like that. How do you have your stuff set up?
Well, this is when we get into probably what you shouldn't listen to me about. So I am going
Really?
I am going to use 2 runt rods. If
Love
the
those.
surf is not greater than 3 feet and the current's not bad, I will deploy runt rods. For some reason, I get the biggest bites, the biggest hits, some of the biggest whiting I've ever seen before. I can use the same exact rig on both a 12-foot rod and a runt rod, and I'm going to catch the bigger whiting. I've caught some of the biggest whiting in my entire life consistently on 2.5 to 4 foot rods. So I don't know what it is, but man, it kind of think it forces us to think, lighter. But it maybe the angle of the rod from where the line is going into the ocean, it's really at the bottom. 12-foot rods, 13-foot rods, it's a little bit higher off the bottom, and so maybe it's targeting the whiting better, the big whiting better. I don't have a clue. but that's something that I enjoy. I get a lot of flack for it. You're going to kill the fish because they're so exhausted after fighting it. I don't know if that's true. If it is, then I would stop doing it. But all the fish I've released that have been over a slot red, they're going back in the water. They're getting away just fine. So I understand the concern. I'm using exclusively 12-foot and at least one 13-foot rod. So my spread is 2 rut rods, 3 12-foot rods, either 1 or 2 13-foot rods. That's what I use. I'm using a variety of pompano rigs. I use Salty's pompano rigs. I'll use the green Get 'em rigs. I've got some frisky fin rattle rigs now that I can't wait to try. And then I've got some hand-tied rigs. And sometimes, depending on the water clarity, I will go down as low as 12-pound test. And I try to stick around 25, no greater than 25-pound test. And you really need that, like the conditions we have for the tournament in Perdido. I had to stick with 25-pound test because the current was so bad. I had to sling some 6-ounce Sputniks out there. And again, weight selection, I tend to weigh heavily on pyramids first. And if I need Sputniks, I've got plenty of Sputniks. I do like the Sinker Guy Sputniks as well. And Rich Vidlich has got some that are really good as well on his website, pompanarich.net. So those are the kind of Sputniks that I'll choose for. But I try to lean on the pyramids first, Sputniks when the current's too bad. And that's basically my setups.
Perfect setups. I love them.
Yep.
So during fishing, you're out there, and whether your timelines, what adjustments do you make while you're actually out there fishing?
I'll move. That's the biggest thing. You don't want to move, but you want to try to move if you can. And so I'm editing a video right now where I started first light at Marine Park in Navarre Beach, and I didn't catch a single thing. I was skunked. I stayed there till about 8:30. I went down the beach into the Portofino area on Pensacola Beach and limited out in 35 minutes. Called Justin Reed. He limited out in 45 minutes. Called Beach Buzz. He limited out in about 3 hours because the bite had changed. But it really amazes me that if you're not getting a hit, if you're not catching any fish, it's a pain in the butt. But sometimes the biggest adjustment you can make is just move a mile down the beach and see what happens. So that's the main adjustment that I'll try to make, is moving if the bite is not good.
This isn't written, but there's a pro that you and I both know, a commercial guy. I'm not going to drop his name, but he was telling me recently he was talking to you about what spot you were in. He described it perfectly. Yeah, how'd you know? And he goes, yeah.
No, hold on a second. Don't bring up a bad story where I catch 3 pompano and watch these guys literally 12 feet down the road, 12 feet away from me, catch 70. Don't you bring up that story. Anyway, no, go ahead.
Close, though. It's really close. Where he did tell you, he's like, if you'd have moved 25 feet to your left, I caught 70 fish there. And it's like, I asked him when him and I were talking about these things, and I'm like, are you serious? He goes, you'd be really surprised what 10 feet to your left or right would make a difference of. And I'm like, okay, how do you see that? And he's like, years of experience. I was like, oh, there it is. Man. You're not going to tell me.
It really is. You bring up a good point. And these guys develop eyes to see where these fish are going to be staging. And if you think about it, he's catching 70 fish while I'm catching the really end of the run where they're not really there. They just kind of got lost from the rest of the school. But that, if you can find that school like they did, that feeding frenzy mentality makes them more apt to strike what you're feeding them. And so it's just like one after another because they're fighting over the bait. And here I am, 25 feet down away, just saying, I hope I catch a fish. And you hate being that guy watching them. I mean, listen, we've been that guy when people are catching pompano and they get their limit, go home at 6. But how many people have been that guy watching them catch 70? Not many people. That was like, oh my gosh. But what it made me think is, man, I want to learn what they're learning. I want to see what they're seeing. So we have to develop those eyes. I don't have them yet. They do. And the more we can position ourselves around people like that, the better anglers we will become.
One thing I love that you've done in the past, you're using your Go Fish Cam. And
yes.
If you guys haven't seen those videos, go take a look at them on Tony's YouTube. Go Fish Cam is a really cool piece of gear for not only for the social media world, but in my opinion, it's also an amazing tool for if you throw it out there and you kind of want to, like, after I guess after game and after plan, after action,
Yes.
however you want to say the words. It's really cool to see how the fish were coming in and how they attack, how they eat, how they look. You could see everything with
Hmm.
it on a really clear day. It really hurts the soul when you throw it out there and you see nothing, but that's also a lesson learned in itself.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, the Go Fish Cam videos you've done, seriously, everybody, that they're really good. They're really helpful for stuff like that too.
It really is amazing. The biggest takeaway I have from those videos, and I don't remember this enough when I'm fishing live, is that pompano and fish in general, they really do size up the bait. And if it's too big, they could care less about it. And we've seen a lot of bigger fish being caught on Panhandle Surf Fishing and other Facebook pages. And the thing that I'm hearing now is that elephants like peanuts, right? Elephants eat peanuts. And
Right.
so you're seeing these big fish, and it's like a little tiny flea. It's a little tiny piece of fish gum. It's a little tiny piece of fish bites, whatever it is. And there's something to it. I've seen it on film, and they'll see that, quarter size sand flea. Nope, I want the one that's micro. I'll eat that one. And it's just crazy to think about that we probably overbait our hooks and are losing opportunities with fish.
Yeah, I'd buy that. I'd absolutely
Hmm.
buy that. Um, well, that brings into the great segue. You always stress bait variety. You've always
Sure,
told me that. You've told it to all our
sure.
friends, and you've said it in all your YouTube videos. What do you use as your bait variety?
So I'm going to start with just, real bait. And I would say, and this is kind of a little bit of a trade secret, we'll get into it later, but in my experience and living down here for a large part of my life, I knew about sand fleas. Everybody has a shrimp, but up to 2015, and I lived here for nearly half my life, I had no idea what a ghost shrimp was. I saw the volcanoes in the sounds and bays. I saw them, I always thought it was some kind of worm. But when I started using ghost shrimp, uh, and Bama Beach Women has said this before, that bait's unfair. Now you can still get skunked on it, and it's a little difficult to harvest. But the number one natural bait that I would say to use is ghost shrimp. Number two would be sand fleas. Number three would always have shrimp. It's so accessible. And a quick story: my uncle, like I mentioned before, Uncle Butch, he was having a hard time finding sand fleas. He came down here in 2016. We fished together. He brought his grandson, and he had sand fleas. He couldn't find them, and he was not catching a thing. And I was like, Uncle Butch, there's this thing called ghost shrimp. Have you ever heard of them? Same thing. Been here all his life. I don't even know what those are. So I harvest them. I bring it to him. He looks at me and says, "You ain't gonna catch nothing on that. In fact, that surf is so rough, you're only gonna catch catfish." And I'm like, "Okay, I see how it is. You're
Right.
the expert." And so I take the ghost shrimp with his grandson William, and we go out there. 7 pompano later, I come up to his condo, show him what we got. His first sentence to me was this: "Tony, don't you ever tell anybody about ghost shrimp. And number two, don't you tell them anything about that thread you have to use to keep them on the hook."
Oh, the
So,
thread. Ugh.
so yeah, I mean the thread is a key, and they are a pain, but the scent release of a ghost shrimp is really it's second to none. And of course the synthetic side. I mean, I do stress using fish bites and fish gum. I do use both. However, because I have fish gum, I do use fish gum primarily, and a lot of it is because I am never stopping ongoing research. So if I'm fishing, I'm tweaking. I'm tweaking fish gum. I'm trying things new. That's the only way that I can advance. I don't have a laboratory. My laboratory is the ocean. So I primarily fish with fish gum. I don't suggest you do that. I do it personally to move the ball forward with making the evolution of fish gum into a better bait, a greater bait, more scent, whatever. And so that's kind of what my mentality is. If you see me fishing, I'm also inventing, creating, trying things that are new. So those are the baits that I use. And I would say, corn, garlic cloves.
Hey, you're gonna bring that one up, really?
Corn, we want to. Hey, I got some hate from old Blake Hunter on the crawfish.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny, man. We,
Oh,
we we
that was
have such a
funny.
great relationship in this industry that we can laugh at each other. And I will say, I will continue to do crazy things. I will continue to do outside the box things, because if something works, then we all benefit. And so, crawfish is a miniature lobster. There are lobsters in the ocean. the scent profile of a crawfish is almost identical to a lobster. There are some principles that are different. That's why a properly used crawfish will work. Now, it's a little inaccessible for some, so stick with what you can get. Ghost shrimp, sand fleas, shrimp, fish bites, fish gum. That's what I recommend. At least three options. I haven't had much success with clams. I've tried them here in the live clams. I've tried them here in the Gulf of Mexico and the Panhandle. I haven't had much success. I know on the East Coast they have tremendous success on clams. I'm not poo-pooing them here. I just haven't had them, and I think there's some opportunities to continue to refine that and try that, and make some videos to see, what's the benefits, how can we use them better here. So there's a lot more better options with clams too. I just haven't had that much success with them.
Nor have I. And
Yeah.
Chip has sent me home numerous times. Last time we came back, he gave me some live ones, and he showed me how to keep them alive longer.
Mm-hmm.
I brought them back here, and I couldn't pay for a bite. But another one that I love is crab knuckles. I mean,
Man, I'm a believer, totally a believer. Yep.
yeah, that's the one Justin's always joking with me about. He's like, if he doesn't see me using it, he's like, "Where's the crab knuckles?" I'm like, well, they're in the cooler. Why aren't you using them? Everything, I don't know. Let's throw some on. He's always said, he's like, that's your secret bait. That he's caught me numerous times. He's like, I swear, those damn crab knuckles. Like, yeah, they work. They're so good.
Yeah, they work. I mean, if you think about it too, like we have nobody really trying the snow crabs. I guess I call them ghost crabs that tourists grab throughout the night, and it's a fun thing for kids to do. People swear by that as bait, and that's an opportunity to try as well. The ghost crabs that are out there. If you think about it, those things burrow down, and when the surf is pounding, it brings them loose and throws them back in the ocean, and that becomes a bait source. I've never used them and had much success. I'm sure other people probably have as their secret bait and are killing it. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So things we have to try, right? And we all become better if we try new things.
Yep. Now, yeah, I've tried them a couple times, but that was before. But I'm going to get
Sure.
them more because now they're finally back out.
They are.
If you guys fish around here, or if you've never been to our region in Navarre, fishing here is kind of an interesting one. Winter, horrible. It's a barren desert of hope and dreams. Normally, you can just catch whiting and catfish, unless you're on the pier or inshore. Different story there. But in the surf, in the wintertime, you're pretty much always going to get whiting. Unless it was 2022, in which case the whiting magically disappeared. It's like, where's
they're
the
there.
whiting?
They're there.
Yeah, Tony
They're
found
there.
the whiting at the pier, and he didn't find just whiting. He found baby reds. And if you guys
Gosh.
want, you definitely need to go take a look at this channel on that because there was a lot of knowledge on that. So if you've been thinking about trying to get into the pier game, Tony's got some good stuff covering for you right there.
Yeah, you almost have to shift. I know we actually talked about this today on a text thread with our group, and there's a lot of folks that have kayaks, and there's a time to shift away from the surf and shift to a kayak or the bays or out deeper in the sea, or go to piers. And if you love fishing, to adjust to find out where to catch fish when they're biting. And so, as much as we love the surf, I mean that's our go-to place. Sometimes we have to peel away from it and try new areas
Yeah, it's
and catch some fish.
also known as June.
Oh, don't even bring up June grass.
I don't want to think about it, man.
I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it. I mean, I can't say it. Man, it was bad. It was bad in Alabama this year. I've never seen it last year was so bad, the June grass. I've never seen it that bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will have an easy June grass season. It's the worst here. Man.
We'll know next month.
Yes, we will. And it becomes June, July, August,
yeah.
September grass.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I learned tonight because my article is due for Coastal Angler.
Sure.
And by the time this releases, it'll be a little preview. That's fine. I'm actually writing about June grass, so I was like, well, let me look it up.
That is awesome.
June grass, of all things, which I did not expect, is actually here from the beginning of June to October.
Oh, we feel it.
Oh, yeah, we totally see it. We make fun of it. But what I found out, let's pull up this article. There it is. June grass is an algae bloom, migrates from the center of the Gulf of Mexico and works its way inland when water temperatures rise. Sporadic pockets of the algae can be spotted as early as June and usually last until October before the water temperature cools.
Wow.
I hate June grass.
And well, I mean, we'll hear it's the natural way the beach replenishes and
Yep.
strengthens the sand. I'm like, I don't want it. I
Yeah.
know that may be true. Thank you, Lord, for it, but it is a pain.
Can we
And
get
if somebody who's listening can invent a fishing line that repels
Oh
June
my
grass,
gosh.
you would be a gazillionaire, right? I mean, you
Absolutely.
really would.
You know what? Now, this year, I'm just going to go ahead and say my idea, and somebody else please do it because I'm probably not going to do it. I'm just going to coat my line in Dawn dish soap. It's a degreaser. I'm just going to launch it out there. They use it on ducks and the oil spills. It should be fine.
Repels June grass, Dawn. It will fly off the shelves, but there'll be a Dawn shortage in this
Oh
area.
my gosh! If that's true, like if that works, and I just said this on the podcast, oh man, you know what?
Oh, that's awesome.
Somebody better hook me up.
Yeah, someone had JC Johnson Wax got to hook you up with some Dawn.
There you go. Yeah, you guys owe me royalties a little bit. Well, now that we've talked about that and we've hit this new time, oh, it's number two.
There we go.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is your second bait check. We are at 50 minutes. And again, bring that line in. Now, if you haven't caught anything and you're listening to this thing, it might be time to move. We kind of just talked
Move.
about that. It's okay to move. Head to another beach, move 20 yards down. Either way, change it up a little bit. So speaking of moving on, let's get into that. What made you want to start Fish Gum? And follow up with that, what is Fish Gum?
Okay. So I'll share some things that I haven't shared before, and I really feel like that because of the way uh, certain things have come to light with Go Shrimp and everything, I think I can talk a little freely about it. I was intrigued with Go Shrimp, and when I was fishing with so many different reel bait options, just seeing how it performed, and so really the model, not that Fish Gum is Go Shrimp, it's not. There is Go Shrimp in Fish Gum. It's not a standalone bait. That's part of the buffet. When we talk about a bait buffet, and I say that there's clams, crabs, shrimp, sand fleas, and more, a part of it is Go Shrimp, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that just seeing how that bait performed and really being blown away by that. And so that kind of intrigued me to think, can we synthesize this? Can we put this into a synthetic strip bait? And kudos to Dr. Carr, Fish Bites. There's no other synthetic bait in the market if it wasn't for the pioneering aspect. They're one of the greatest baits and one of the greatest minds in fishing of all time. So give credit to the Carr Bait Company and what they've done. And so I don't want to build upon things that have already been done. So a lot with Fish Gum is trying to be something different. And so the different part about Fish Gum is, again, it is a buffet bait. And what that means is it basically presents scent of different organisms in both real bait extract and synthetic form. There's still some more secrets in there that I'm not going to reveal. It could be crawfish. Who knows? I'm not going to say it, but it could be crawfish. It could be palmetto bugs. Could be palmetto bugs,
Love
roaches.
bugs. Love bugs because it's Florida.
There is an endless supply of love bugs out there I can extract.
True
right?
story.
But really the inspiration behind it is just seeing how powerful scent is in the process of of a fish determining what bait they're going to eat or if they will feed at all. So started with just really fishing and seeing the differences with scent, and then trying to create something that wasn't already on the market, which was a buffet bait. And that's why I always say use both baits, because it's different. It's not the same. It's a lot of the way it releases is different. And so a lot of the way Fish Gum is today, how long it lasts, the scent release is modeled around the ghost shrimp primarily. And so that's kind of where it got its roots. And really, it was painstaking. And let's take a second with what we do. You're doing a podcast right now. You have a wife and a daughter that are in the room keeping themselves occupied. I've got a wife and 3 sons in there. Let's just thank our families because they are a big part of the success that we have, of believing in us. My wife, Natalie, gives me the freedom to experiment. Sometimes it's very nasty what I do. And early on, a lot of my experimenting was in my kitchen.
I was
and
wondering
so
when you're going to bring
you
this
can
up.
you can imagine how nasty that is when you're extracting bait in your home. And so, and my 3 sons to want to work for me and for this bait. And my oldest son is going to be leaving soon for college. So I'll lose one of my workers, and he's worried. I mean, he is worried about what we're going to do with fish gum in a good way because he loves doing it. And so I am nothing. We're only a reflection of the people who love us that are behind us, and that's our families. And so they're as much. Even though you asked me the question, what made me come up with this idea? My family is a huge part of this idea, and they will forever be. And I'm so thankful to the Lord for their lives.
You forgot to bring up the garage too.
Okay, so the garage, listen, I thought something died in there today. I went in there and I realized my garage, I had two fridges. One's a bait fridge. And for some reason, it unplugged itself while I was in Las Vegas for a week. And
Oh
something smelled like it
no.
was dying in there. Well, what was dying in there was some sand fleas that were blanched. They turned black and they started dripping black everywhere. And so I had to clean up
Yep.
that nastiness. But I had when I was making fish gum in the garage, which is it's really cool how many companies, and I'm not anywhere close to being Dell or Microsoft or Amazon, but all companies start in the garage. It's just a cool thing to be thinking about that if you have an idea, there's so many things to create. Man, just use your home, use your garage. But my garage became ground zero for making fish gum. It started with my son and his friend, and they were in there producing on a very small scale. But the problem is with producing a super scented bait in your garage is that fish aren't the only thing that like fish gum. So do rats. And so I must have killed at least 12 rats in my
I
garage.
remember this.
Oh my gosh. So I had a rat problem for a while. Not anymore. We keep the rats out of the warehouse now is where we're at in Gulf Breeze. But the garage was ground zero. And I'm thankful I didn't blow anything up, start any fires. I did all the wiring myself. I'm not a electrician, nor am I licensed. But we had to get it out of here so I would keep my house not from being destroyed.
Hmm.
So that's the garage story.
I love that story. Okay, so you've been called the mad scientist sometimes. Why?
So I will give you a free pack of fish gum if you can say who coined that name for me. Do you
Rich.
have any idea?
Rich.
And it wasn't Rich.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Who else do I think would say that
Which, by
about
the way,
you?
since you bring up Rich Vitalich, my father's long gone. He died about almost 10 years ago, and I love having Rich in my life to have a fatherly figure to help with the tough times of being a manufacturer and weeding through this new environment that we have with supply chains. And I'm very blessed to have Rich Vitalich in my life. And so he didn't coin me. He's called me other things,
No, I'm
but
sure.
not the mad scientist. So
Matt
you want to
Poole?
give up on that?
I'm going. I'm
No,
going
it
one
was.
more.
It is a Matt.
Okay. All right. I've lost it. What you got?
So it was actually Matthew Isbell.
Oh, the Bama Beach Bum.
He's like, yep, he was the one that first coined the mad scientist of the surf. And so that is it's very true. And I will say that what's funny is I think most people who what I'm discovering most people who are inventors are people who kind of have done that for the most part of their lives. And so I have always been, even as a child, my favorite show to watch as a child was Mr. Wizard. I don't know if you remember Mr. Wizard, but Mr. Wizard was on
Absolutely.
PBS. It was PBS. I mean, the dude was doing some crazy things, electricity, doing counterbalancing. I mean, all this different stuff. And I just love that. And I thought that was so cool. My father, he was an inventor. I mean, he never came out with anything that made it to market, but I remember him in the garage of our house in Aurora, Colorado, and he was trying to make a magnetic engine that would run based on being repelled from negative and positive charges. And so he was a science man. He was a dentist. He's got a lot of knowledge in science, and he's helped me along the way. But I'm constantly doing things that are crazy, new, different, and that's probably why I got the name the mad scientist of the surf. And it's something that I'll take on. I love it. I love the fact that I am a mad scientist. I do things that are crazy, and it sticks. It kind of fits the persona that I am.
Well, now that you bring that up, you have a new bait coming out, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit.
Sure.
And the fish being the ghost shrimp
Yes.
is the new tease to talk about the new bait a little bit more, because you hit it a little bit, but not all the way.
Sure. Yeah. So, the pursuit has always been to synthesize a ghost shrimp in its scent profile, in the way the fish react to it, in the way the fish can find it really in any kind of water, desirable fish, the ones we want to catch. And so I'm about 75% done. There are certain things that I cannot do without the use of a laboratory. So I will be utilizing some colleges that have marine biology laboratories that I can use. I won't get in the process of what I'll be doing. That's more trade secret stuff. But we're close. We've fished with a couple first versions, and it was very successful. But when you're saying something is ghost shrimp and it's synthesized, it better work like it, or people will call your bluff. And so I won't come out with it until it's 100% finished, into the way that it fishes similarly to real ghost shrimp, and that will really help a lot of the harvesting of ghost shrimp. Ghost shrimp in Florida is not a regulated species of bait. In Texas, you're only allowed to harvest 10. I do think that we probably will be heading towards some type of regulation in the future. It just depends on how much it's harvested. And right now, there's no record keeping on the harvesting of ghost shrimp. Again, it's a great bait. It's one of my favorite. That's where we are. That's kind of like the ICAST preview, the ghetto ICAST, because I'm not going to ICAST. So this is my ghetto ICAST. My ghetto ICAST. Listen, I'm a small businessman. I don't have the money to do that, but I will still get the buzz out there. So that's coming. Secondary bait, probably sometime in 2023. And I mentioned this before, and I'm back to figuring out what I did to make this happen. A lot of what I do is by accident. That's not because I've planned it out. It's because I made a mistake and it works out. So we're going to work on a floating fish gum. And so, most baits sink, and you add a float, it causes them to float. But to have a bait that also releases scent and is able to float higher in the water column may be an added benefit to the floats you're already using, because sometimes the baits you use with the floats will actually bring the float down, and it will separate, and you'll have the float by the joint of the rig, and the bait's dangling down, not being utilized by the float to jig in the water. So we're working on a floating fish gum bait. And I'll tell you what I do need help on, and this is where I'm going to go back to enlisting the listeners of the podcast, is that I would love to get brighter colors of fish gum. I'm using basic food colorings, and they're not necessarily bright. So if anybody out there has got any ideas, shoot me a private message on what kind of coloring we can do to brighten up the bait a little bit more. So I think that's kind of an evolution I want to make, is to get some brighter colors out there. So that's a lot. I just dropped a lot on y'all.
Yeah, that was kind of a nuke.
Yep.
There you go, everybody.
Kind of a nuke.
Hey, he brought it up.
That's right.
If you got some ideas, by all means, share them with Fishgum. You can reach out to Tony anytime on that. He is very responsive. So don't be surprised if you get a reply.
Yep.
What has been a significant lesson learned making bait?
Oh, man. I tell you, I don't know how, when you buy a box of Cheerios, that they're able to produce that for $4 for the family size. And what I am very challenged by, and what I'm very thankful for at the same time, are manufacturers. And there's nothing more challenging than that. When you're creating something from literally nothing, and you're making it come together into a product, that's extremely challenging. And we're faced with new challenges. We're having to pivot a little bit. We're having to take a few steps back in order to take some steps forward in the way we distribute, because the supply chain is difficult. And it's very difficult for a small business when you don't have your buying power to get bulk ingredients, and you're really dependent on what the market is doing and where those ingredients are coming from. I had one ingredient stateside, and I'm trying my best not to raise my margins, because I feel like the bait is right priced. But I had a something that makes up a large portion of fish gum go up 300%. And so those are real challenges. Is how do you survive in a market that everything is more expensive. And I think it's harder to become a new manufacturer today than it was 10 years ago, because of inflation, because of the supply chain. And so we are navigating the best way we can. And in full transparency, man, this I guess it was early on in the year. I mean, I was weeping to my wife, just so worried about, have I done this right? Am I bringing my family down to a place that could be bad, because we're invested heavily in fish gum, and I was lowest of lowest, just struggling, figuring out how this is going to work out. And the Lord's providing now, but man, it's a real struggle. And I commend anybody who is creating something and selling it out of nothing, because that is amazing. It is an amazing process. So it's been a challenge. At the same time, I've been very thankful for every product that I hold in my hand that has been made by somebody, because it's not an easy process. Manufacturers truly are the lifeblood of our world. Without them, we have nothing to sell.
And the prices are going to continue to go, which makes it worse.
That's it. That's it. Absolutely.
So transitioning into something that is, you've alluded to it on your previews for coming on the podcast, and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to drop another bomb on you here. Tony is come up with an idea, and he is going to stand by it. He's already said, like, this is happening. There is a new thing that Tony wants to do, and that's celebrate the 4-pound club.
Yep.
Now, I'll let you unveil this one, because this is your baby, and I'll jump in here with the history.
Yeah, you're going to do a history of the challenge coin in a second, and listen, I'm personally touched by this. I know that there was some certain, and I'm not tooting my own home. I try to be as humble as I can, and that's something I hold myself in check, is to where the areas of pride and arrogance do I have, because I don't want to live that way. They all creep in our lives, but I was really humbled and touched by the Panhandle group that when we first got started, just recognizing that this group has brought people together. And you guys did a salute with fishing rods instead of swords at my warehouse, and you presented me with 2 challenge coins, and just how when you get a challenge coin, you don't really get rid of it. I mean, it's there as a recognition for the rest of your life. And I think I've been seeing some incredible catches this year. I personally have never caught a 4-pound pompano. I've caught 3.7. That's happened. I've never caught a 4-pounder. So that 4-pounder kind of is the apex. I know Bama Beach Bum, on your last podcast with him, he talked about getting that one mounted, getting that one, to remember the 4-pound pompano he caught. So this is not a fish gum thing. It's fish gum sponsored, but I don't care what you catch a pompano that's 4 pounds on. It can be any bait that's out there, any bait. I don't care. I'm going to give you a recognition coin, a challenge coin that recognizes your catch of a 4-pound pompano. Now, it's going to start this year, so if you caught one in the past, it doesn't count. I'll get details later. The coin is about a $20 coin. I'm fronting the cost of that. The only thing I ask, if you want the coin, is if you pay for the marginal shipping to get to your house, to help me offset costs and to be able to provide this for you in recognition of that catch. Also working on a challenge coin for our fish gum ambassadors. A lot of moving parts that I have to focus through on a daily basis, and I'm trying to do better at giving that recognition to the people that are on our team that are pro anglers. And so we're working on a challenge coin for those individuals as well. But for the everyday angler, you have an opportunity to have a one of a kind. There's 200 being made right now, and I guess they're going to be a collector's item. You've seen some pictures of it. When I get the coin, I will go live and show you it. But there are some people that have caught one. I know Bama will get one. I know Salty will get one. I think there's some other catches out there at the Alabama Pomp Stomp, and there's some catches at the Gulf Breeze Bait and Tackle Tournament. I'll drop some coins off to give to the people who caught those. They'll have to pay for shipping. It's local. But I feel like this is something that is a big deal. I mean, how many people have caught those? I don't know many people. And to recognize that, to celebrate that catch, to be a part of that recognition, I'm very honored to invest in that for the angler.
They're going to be awesome.
You got to catch a 4-pounder, buddy.
I do. I need to. I mean, I think I wish that I'd have gone back and weighed that one that I caught with Justin, the 18-incher. I'm sure it would have been
Oh
close,
yeah,
but
you're
didn't
close.
have scales back then. But you alluded to this, so I'm going to go ahead. For those of you who don't know, I'll be surprised if you don't know this about me, but that's fine. So I am a retired Marine. Spent my whole time doing fun
Awesome.
stuff doing that. So the military, we do have challenge coins, and the ongoing thing is kind of you can get them from your unit, from your commander. It's kind of a sign for, hey, you did a good job. Yeah, here's a coin. You can get them from commanding generals. Even the president has them. All the high-to-dos in the military have them. And the challenge coin, if you are at a bar or something like that, and somebody comes up and says, "All right," drops their coin, it says challenge coin, and they've got, let's say it's a unit commander, an O5 coin, and you pull out oh, that's cute. You bust out one at a higher rank, they owe you a drink. But if you have one or you don't have one, technically you owe them a drink. So that could be also said with this one. If you want to try to get free drinks, yeah, I did not recommend this. I mean, it might be a problem for you unless it's military, in which case, we'll all probably laugh at you and whatever it is. Um,
Sure.
but if you go to defense.gov and you search challenge coins, there are three different stories regarding these. One is about World War One, where a wealthy guy was, trying to give something back to his men at the time, and gave him a coin as a sign of thank you. Well,
Hmm.
supposedly he he got captured with no ID, escaped, and got picked up by I believe it was a French Navy boat, and they were about to execute him. But then he had no ID. This French officer recognized the coin that he had and supposedly gave him a bottle of wine, and all was well in the world. It was like, oh, that's a cute story. Um,
It is cute.
Completely unidentified, completely unverified, but that's that one there. And then there's another one that I believe was in the 90s that kind of ran out with started with enemy bullets, and grenades and rockets. So a coin size item was made of the unit insignia to accept proof of that. So you can really kind of go several different ways with the coin story. But yeah, it is a tradition in the military. You get them a lot for leadership units that you've been with, and just congratulations. So the military coin tradition it's an ongoing and it will never end thing. So if you want to know more about it, by all means, ask Gunny Google, as I like to say, and you can get a lot of stories on that. All right, so
So cool.
transitioning into a piece which a lot of people get turned off on, and I know I'm going to say this, um,
Yeah.
and you all can hate me if you want. I respect that. Uh, I don't overly care if it makes people uncomfortable. This is me talking. Um, but yeah, we'll just get right into it. Faith has been a large part of your life and fishing and channel. When we started this, we talked about it, and it's hit. And then as soon as you said it, I'm like, somebody's gonna get angry. And on the same one, I'll be the first one to admit that's cool that you're angry. I'm happy that you're angry. You have your own
Uh,
beliefs. That's good for you. But why has faith been such a large part of your life and your channel?
yeah. At a later time, and on my channel, I will do an official kind of testimony of how the Lord Jesus has changed my life, and you know, it's something that the comments that I get sometimes when I pray or when I talk about Christ is, I liked watching your video until you talked about God, or can you just keep religion out of it? And I just want to say, man, I'm sorry that it probably had some bad experiences, and I get that. I mean, we're all fallen. Even churches are sinful, right? We're going to struggle, and it's a big part for me because it's who I am, and I feel like if I did not, you know, talk about Christ or thank Him or pray at times in my videos, it would just not be me. It would not be genuine. That I would be living a lie, and so I will say, out of all transparency, that the biggest the biggest fear that you have with being open about um, faith is that people think that you're somehow better or self-righteous than everybody else. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this now, that just because I bring in faith into my channel doesn't mean I'm a good, perfect Christian. I mean, just even recently, I had some trouble with pornography in my house from my eyes looking at things that I should not, and it impacted my marriage. it hurt my wife. And I don't want that to be a part of what I do. And it's been a struggle being more involved in Facebook and online media and all that stuff. It's so much easier to go down a path that is toxic and hard. And so that's my sin. And unfortunately, this is an unfortunate thing. I can't save myself, but it's also a fortunate thing that I have someone that I can turn to, which is Christ, that can change my heart and to help me in my marriage and to love my wife like I should, with my eyes focused on her. And so all these things, I just want to say that I am a sinner. I'm struggling like everybody else. I have issues that the Lord is working on, and without Him working on these things in my life, I would fall and stumble, and I would disappear into nothingness. So God is working in my life, and so He deserves the credit. I can take no credit upon myself. This has always been a God thing, from the beginning, from the end, from the middle, and there's nothing I can do without it. So why not give credit to the person that's helped you the most, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I can't live without saying that. And I realize it does put a target on my back of criticism. And I don't say this because I'm being pompous. I don't care about the criticism. I just care about being genuine. And that's what you're going to see. I'll genuinely struggle, and I'll genuinely trust in Christ, because that's the only hope that I have.
Good man.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I've said it before. I mean, I always appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate,
Sure, man.
it's one of the few things that I know people are instantly, they get really quickly turned off on, and if you're still listening to the show, hey, thank you, because we all have our things. So
that's right.
You're a good man for being able to handle the things that you can handle and dealing with what you can deal with.
Yeah. Nope. I can only handle them because He's handling them for me. I don't have the power, man.
I get you.
Things that happen in my life, dude, I can't even take credit for it, man. I'm completely dependent. I try to be, at least. Sometimes I suck at it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Well, father, husband, pharma rep, working in that industry, bait maker, YouTube influencer, businessman, angler, friend, encourager. The list goes on and on of tags that we can throw at you, and
Sure.
titles, and all that piece. How do you do it?
You're going to give me a panic attack from reading all those titles off right now. I will say, if I'm completely honest, something always suffers. Either I'm struggling as a father, struggling as a husband, struggling as a businessman, struggling as an angler, a friend, an encourager, a YouTube influencer, a bait maker, farmer rep. There's something always struggling, because it's impossible to live that way. I have learned, by God's grace, to not care as much about certain things, because it makes me more healthier. I've had trouble with high blood pressure, anxiety. Not too many people know this, but I had a stroke at age 33. And so, all that is very worrisome when you have a lot of things going on. One thing I listened to recently that really helped me was, I can't give you the reference. Maybe one day I'll remember it. My wife let me listen to it. But I think the speaker was talking about relationships and spheres. And we as human beings, because the way God made us, has really only given us a capacity for like 50 relationships. It's not very much. It's not, I mean, that's a lot. 50 is a lot. But if you think about it, when you're involved and as you grow in your influence, a lot more people start coming your way. And it's impossible to please people. It's impossible to keep up relationships. It's impossible to answer every email, every text, every instant messenger. So I have gotten to the point where I'm thinking, you know what? It's okay if I don't answer back. And that's a struggle for a people pleaser. That's who I am. So I struggle at times. I need to do a lot more date nights with my wife. I need to have more one-on-one times with my sons. But something seems to always struggle in all of it. And so there are certain priorities that I must make first. And a lot of it is, of course, my relationship with the Lord. It struggles sometimes. My relationship with my wife, my sons are key, my church, my friends. In terms of jobs, pharmaceutical sales is number one. I have to segment and cut off fish gum in my involvement until after hours, or I'll get fired. And so there's just so much that I can do at the warehouse in 4 hours in the evening hour to make things work. So there's a lot of balancing and giving over to my priorities, but I don't have it figured out, and it is a struggle.
I mean, a businessman, it is always that impossible thing
Yep.
to make, the 25th hour, the 30th hour. It's a nightmare. And I don't have it nearly the busy that you do. I mean, I have watched you do so many things. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how he does it, but he's doing it. Good on him.
And then I go manic on some kind of idea, and let all y'all know, like, this dude needs to stop. This guy needs to stop being manic right now and go back to just chilling.
Somebody call Tony. Somebody call Tony and tell him stop.
I was manic on y'all yesterday on some idea.
Only a little. Only a little. It was just okay. I mean,
but
we're going to have a discussion.
Let me say this, though. Let me say this. If I did not have an outlet of friendships like you guys,
yeah,
I wouldn't make it. If I didn't just let things out, which we got to have, and that's the worst thing about dudes, is you don't share what's going on in your heart, right? You just keep it inside. You just kind of muscle through and be the tough guy. But man, being weak and vulnerable in front of each other, that helps tremendously to help me balance all this with you guys. 100%.
Well, dude, you got to get it out. I mean,
exactly.
I'll be the first one, and people here, little sign into Brian's life. The rabbit in my head goes about 100 miles an hour, and
I see it. I see it turning.
Yeah, it can go from fishing to, I got to fix that RV, to, man, I remember that one time when we were at Al Assad and this happened, and then turn around and be like, where are we going? And why am I still driving? Holy crap, where am I?
Where am I?
The brain, you can only handle so much, and
That's
even have a friend or have an outlet is really important. And if any listener here, you don't have one, dare I say, I'll happily try to message you. I do my best to try to answer messages, as we all try to, but you got to find that outlet. You got to find that freedom, that space. You got to make that space for you, and it's okay. It's okay.
Amen.
I hate saying that. All right. Moving into the last pieces here, you're in the home stretch because we've been going, wow, this is at an hour and 20, which means...
Do it!
Third bait check. That's right. That bait's been sitting a while. So hopefully you caught a bunch of fish and you paused and come back to this. The great thing about a podcast, and unlike the YouTube world, you can stop this and come back and pick it right back up on all your platforms.
Yep.
In case you didn't know that, you don't have to start the episode over. I love that. And if you download it, that makes it even easier because you can delete it later. It doesn't take up space on your phone. All right. What do you recommend a new angler does before ever putting a line in the water?
Okay, I got two things. All right, the first, number one, is make sure you're on social media, seeing where the fish are at, developing those connections, those relationships. You and I know both that without panhandle surf fishing, having all this knowledge of what people are catching, we would get skunked probably 75% of the time.
Yep.
That has been the number one thing. Let's just throw the gear, the bait, the tackle. It's always communication. It's always relationships. And you can even private message people and ask questions they may not feel like they can share openly about where some certain fish are at. So number one, if you're listening to this podcast and you're going to an area vacationing, or you live there now and you want to get involved in surf fishing, before you put a line in the water, get a part of a group, find out the lay of the land. You'll be a much better surf fisherman. Number two is when you're there, the very first thing I recommend is just thanking God for the opportunity. He created this beach for you. The fish were created for you to be caught. He's in control of every catch. You're not the best angler in the world. He actually is. And if you catch a fish, if you don't catch a fish, God made this possible for you to enjoy the ocean. So just be still and enjoy what he has made. He is a creator. He's made it all. He made it for our enjoyment, which is an amazing thing that we can celebrate these catches together because there's a God who cares about us celebrating these catches together. So that's the second thing I do, just take it all in what God has made.
Nice, man. Final question, or final two questions. First one,
Yes.
what gear would you recommend for a new angler?
If you're a new angler, don't overcomplicate it. I would say the most frustrating thing that can be for you is having the very best gear and not catching any fish. So start with what you have. Seriously, if you got a 7-foot bass fishing rod, take it to the beach. Get you a 2 ounce pyramid weight and a custom made surf fishing rig and throw in the first gut. Learn how to catch the fish first in the first gut, and then move on to something else. You'll have so much fun if you're just catching fish to begin with, even if you don't have all the seasoned gear that most of us have. Keep it simple. Remember, catching fish on a 2-foot rod and a 4'6" rod.
Yep.
You can have a great time by keeping it simple.
Yep, don't ignore the first 50 feet. There's stuff.
That's right.
All right,
There's
man.
some monsters living there.
There are. There absolutely are.
Yep.
All right, last
Yep.
question. What's next for Fishgum and Tony?
Wow. Just being consistent, right? Just trying to manage. My wife has a big part in Fishgum, and she is really the lifeblood of it all. And Mark Burford said it when we met him at the Pompano tournament when he was there selling his over-the-bar rods, that she's the one who's the keeping it together, and she really is. And so trusting in her and her ability to keep me grounded, that's what's next for me personally and for the business. I'm so thankful for the wife that God has given me, and I could not be the same without her. So just being all here right now where we're at, that's the place I need to be. Trusting in the Lord, trusting in my wife, celebrating my kids, enjoying my friends, and catching a 4-pound pompano so I can give myself a coin.
I mean, you should totally, count Brock's fish. It was caught on your gear.
I think that's
Brock.
That's the thing. That's the thing, dude. Is that if you want to catch a 4-pound pompano, just come fish with me and use all my stuff.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, that works. That works really nice.
For reference here, people, the spring pompano showdown that we just did, the winning fish was not 4 pounds.
No,
it was a heavy three, very heavy
Close.
3, and it was a monster fish. So a 4-pound pomp it's a sight to behold. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at the Alabama Pomp Stomp recently, Matt Boyington won that one with a 4-pound 3. I have to go back and look. He had it with a 4-pound pomp, and it was a fatty. So right now, the Gulf Breeze Bait and Tackle tournament, the leader is a 6-pound pompano.
Come on, man, that's like gigantic.
I mean,
don't you wish you could see that in person?
Absolutely.
Because no pictures do it justice.
No.
None.
No. Like the time I weighed mine and I saw Colby's, and Colby had I think Colby had a 4-pounder. It was at least 3 inches wide. At least 3 inches wide. No, it was amazing. It was almost a hand. Yeah, so it was almost 4. It just, they're big females. I don't know how they find them, but they're out there, so go get them.
Yes. Go get them. Get your coin.
Get your coin. All right. Tony, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate you and all the time you've given me. Not to mention everybody listening to this. You dropped a ton of knowledge, and I hope that somebody, well, I know, I don't have to say I hope, I know somebody's going to be able to use it and make themselves a better angler. I know that's one of the biggest things that you've always pushed is, hey, I'm going to give you info to make you better. And thank you for always doing that.
Man, awesome. And thank you for living a generous life. And a lot of us can emulate that is just to give. And thank you for giving. And I appreciate you giving your time to me tonight, sacrificing time with your family to do this podcast once a week. And it is a blessing to all of us who listen to it every single week. Thank you, brother.
I mean, I appreciate you. All right, we will
You
see
know,
you again soon. I know that.
yes, sir.
All right, man. I'll talk to you in a bit.
I guess. Bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. We just recorded with Fish Gum, Tony Faggioni, and we ran the gauntlet. I mean, we had it all. We went from his style to all about Fish Gum and how he makes it, along with the special announcements of the new Ghost Shrimp Fish Gum and the 4 pound Pompano Club with a coin. So I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did. Thank you, as always, for sticking around with me on the show. I know that when I first started, I promised you, we'll do it in 30 minutes. Well, 30 became 45, and 45 accidentally became an hour. And yeah, I'm pretty much done with the time limits here because if I can give you this knowledge and you can use it, I mean, I'll do a 3 hour show if I have to. So thank you for always being here. If this has helped you, like, share, subscribe. It helps helps me grow. It helps me do these things that I can continue to do, and it also is going to help somebody else out there that is either getting into the sport, has started, or needs another tip for their tackle box. It's all because of you that I am even remotely successful. So thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. We'll see you next week. You've been listening to Finding Demo Surf Fishing. Have a great day. I'm out.